What's your favorite cryptid? Because we went to that Oddities and Curiosities show.
Yeah. I'm partial to,
Is it the pant one?
Yeah.
Because that's what I was going to say.
Really? That's your favorite?
Currently.
The Fresno Nightcrawlers.
Yeah, Fresno Nightcrawler. They're just guys.
They're just it's just a pair of pants.
Just pants walking around.
I like those guys, and I also like the Mothman.
Mothman's pretty good.
But not the Mothman that's the buff superhero Mothman that is in West Virginia. But I like the little fuzzy guy that people dress up as. Where he's just like a little black cape with like little red eyes and feelers. That would be a good Halloween costume. And like the lore around him is kind of like, oh, you know, he might be an omen of death, but he might also just be like an owl that somebody saw when they were really drunk.
I feel like that's most cryptids.
Yeah, I think it's just that like people go out and do things they're not supposed to with drugs and alcohol. And then they see scary things, and then they come home and they're like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
Although, my mom has seen a hodag.
Has she seen a hodag?
Mm-hmm.
What? When? Where? How?
As a child.
Please describe what a hodag is.
It's like a skunk ape or like a Bigfoot, but in...
Is that...
the, like, Ohio-ish region.
Some big furry guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think I knew that.
Should ask her about it sometime.
Yeah.
Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to Cinema Crush.
Welcome.
I'm Jacob Salisbury.
And I'm Emily Salisbury.
And we like to share movies with each other.
And we're also married.
And we like good storytelling.
Yeah, and other good movie stuff, like the visuals. And the music. That's all I can think of.
Other movie ingredients
In this big soup that we call movies. And we're going to talk about one today.
But there's been a lot going on this week for us. We'll do start with our little life update.
Yeah, why don't you go first?
I am a teacher and I just had midterms. I graded all my things.
That was your whole week, was just grading.
Uh-huh.
And I threw a bunch of other things at you.
Uh-huh.
So this week should hopefully be significantly less
full
of things.
And we have a podcast on top of that. But this episode will be my last weekly edit. Yes. We will truly, for my schedule, I will truly be back to a bi-weekly schedule for editing. Because as much as I love doing the Rings of Power, it was so much work doing this show on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think that we will definitely use that as a lesson for the future. Like, if we're going to... If there's a series that's coming out, and we're like, oh, we should do a review on that, we should really look at our schedule for the next, month or so.
Yeah.
But...
this should be more manageable now.
Yeah, we'll go back to bi-weekly, so we should be back on track in terms of schedule, but I make no promises, because this is a hobby.
Yeah, so I apologize for the erratic upload schedule, but that's been the reason why.
What else has been going on?
Your friend came to town.
Yeah, Matt Stricker.
He's a cool artist.
Wonderful. An absolute angel. Somebody that I went to college with. And he was in town for the Oddities and Curiosities Expo in Portland, which is like taxidermy and horror and all this spooky stuff that was really appropriate for the Halloween season. So
it was pretty cool.
Kind of twofold, fun weekend.
There's a lot of people at that thing.
There were a lot of people.
I think there were more people than Comic-Con.
For Portland, that really doesn't surprise me. There were a lot of vendors that came from out of town too.
Yeah.
Like, there were a lot of people from Texas. We got to go to dinner at this really great pasta place, and we went to Weird Leatherworks and Meadery, which was So cool.
It's like a bar, but it's themed after like a medieval tavern.
Yeah, it was super cool. It was like peak Lord of the Rings fan ambiance. And we will definitely have to go check that place out again because they had really good mead. I've only had mead like once or twice before, but they like were doing some amazing things in that place. They make their own stuff and it was so good.
What's his Instagram?
Matt's Instagram is Reaching for Divine. Those 3 words are separated by underscores. He does like eldritch horror graphite art.
It's really fun.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. And
I love creepy things. That's a little thing I haven't really shared on this podcast is I'm a pretty happy, like, positive person most of the time, but I love creepy things. I love scary, spooky, horrifying monsters.
You like body horror stuff too.
Yeah.
Not like gory.
Not like nasty, but just like
disturbing.
Like Junji Ito type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me happy.
Yeah, I know it does.
And you won't let me hang any of my art in our home.
Yeah, well, because I think it would scare people. It would scare me.
Yeah.
I would feel bad.
That's the point.
Having it watching over me. I prefer my birds and things.
My coworker Tim has expressed to me multiple times that my office door scares him.
Sorry, please explain what your office door looks like.
My office door is face themed. So it is a combination of 2 things. It is super spooky, scary. It's got like teeth and like scary faces and like monsters. And also Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal backs, like with the cool like cartoony face.
Mm-hmm.
But at the centerpiece of it all, do you remember when McDonald's redesigned the Happy Meal to have like CG 3D realistic eyes and teeth?
I only remember because you have one.
Yeah. But for our audience out there was a time when rather than just the simple like yellow smile, they gave it a real mouth with the tongue and teeth and like eyes that look properly 3D rendered.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying and I love it because it's not meant to be terrifying, but it just is.
Yes.
It's just uncanny.
It is.
And that is the centerpiece of my door.
Yeah. So that's if you are one of Jacob's students, that is what you see when you go to his office hours.
Yeah.
I feel like that should prepare.
Maybe that's why I don't get a lot of people in my office hours.
Maybe they just don't like to come inside. They don't, it's like a test. It's like the Sphinx's riddle.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I think
busy week. We also started a new D&D group.
We did. We started a new group with the new D&D module that released Spelljammer. So we're doing a little...
Which is refreshing for me because I haven't, like, hung out with in-person people until, like, properly until, like, this year.
Yeah. Well, because we haven't been able to because we moved to a new place in the middle of the pandemic, and then we've slowly been gathering a friend group here, and we finally got the opportunity to join a group of people that are really great, and I'm very excited to see where this goes. It'll be really fun to just hang out, if nothing else. Yeah. So.
But do you want to get into this movie?
Yeah, what are you showing me?
So, it's spooky season, and I was trying to think of what I was going to show you, because there's a couple horror films that I've wanted to show you, but I think I want to hold on to them a little bit longer, just because I think we'll probably extend our spooky season a little bit, just because we're bi-weekly, and we don't get a whole lot of episodes during October.
Well, and here's the thing. Fall really just kind of kicked off in the PNW, so now I'm really feeling the spooky season, so I definitely have... Like,
we're ready for it now.
I've got some ideas of things I want to show you.
Yeah. I think the next episode that I present will be a proper horror film. This one that I'm giving you this week is not. It is an animated film.
Okay.
We're going to watch 9.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen this one in a long, long time.
Yeah, but I thought it's kind of a good vibe.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a scary kids movie.
Yeah.
But it also has interesting production and, like, history with, like, the people that have worked on it.
Yeah. To the point of it being kind of a scary kids movie, I do remember watching this. My mom used to be, well, she still is. She would perform on the worship team at church. And so my younger siblings and I would frequently hang out in one of like the kids' daycare rooms downstairs while she was doing that. And one of the movies that I remember watching while in one of those daycare rooms on the TV in the corner was 9.
What?
I also watched Lord of the Rings 2 Towers. Not for the first time. But yeah, those are weird kid memories that I have.
That is not a movie I'd put on in a daycare.
No, well, and it wasn't like a daycare situation. It was just like us 3 kids.
Yeah, just hanging out.
But like my little brother, who was 10 years younger than me, and I probably was maybe 13, maybe younger than that. So, yeah.
But
choices.
How long has it been, would you say, since you've seen this? Like a good decade?
A good decade. Like, I remember it vaguely, but I have not seen it. I maybe, like, saw part of it once on TV, like, because somebody had it on more recently than that, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I do remember liking it.
Well, now we can analyze it as adults.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie gets forgotten across time, and it's kind of a shame because I think it's a really unique film amongst, like, I don't want to say children's media. It's not really a kid's film. It's not really a family film. It's just a film.
Yeah.
And it's animated. A lot of animation, especially in the US, is marketed toward children.
Right.
And that's kind of been the mindset. It's been changing over the past couple decades with more adult animation shows coming out. Not a whole lot of adult animated movies. We had a little bit of a phase where we were getting stuff like the Beowulf movie that was animated, that like Robert Zemeckis company. But we haven't really had any proper like adult, general audience animated films.
Yeah.
Because that's really more of a common thing in places like France.
Yeah.
France's animation scene is very different from the US. In the US, things are very corporate. Obviously, we got Disney, we got Illumination, we've got DreamWorks, Sony, all those. France is a lot of smaller studios. There's larger ones in there too. But usually it's a lot of smaller studios kind of working together. And ends up being a lot more, I guess what you would say, artsy.
Mm-hmm.
France's animation is not geared toward children specifically. It's just another medium of film.
You know what? And from what I remember about this movie, if you told me that this was a French movie that had English dub, I would believe you.
Yeah, right? Like, it doesn't feel like a traditional American animated film.
Yeah. It kind of feels like if, what is it called? The one studio that made Green Knight?
A24.
Yeah, it feels like if A24 made an animated movie.
Funny you should say that, because Focus Features is the distributing company, I guess? Production? No, I don't know if it's production. I think it's just the distributing company. But Focus Features tends to find kind of diamonds in the rough with their stories. They're very much associated with Leica. They've been kind of one of the primary companies associated with Leica, the stop motion company. This actually came out the same year as Coraline as well, so it was very much in line with what they were doing. Tim Burton also latched himself onto this project.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he saw how unique it was. So I think whenever you hear 9 or Nightmare Before Christmas, people typically think Tim Burton, which is true to the fact that he had a hand in producing it. But in terms of like the actual like filmmaking, he had very little to do with either movie. So this was actually an animated short.
Oh.
To begin with.
Okay.
It was made by Shane Acker. He made it while at UCLA. That's the University of California, LA. It was a 10-minute short, and it was nominated for Best Short at the Oscars in 2006.
Nice.
Which is extremely impressive.
Yeah.
For any short, but especially coming out of a university setting. Afterward, even though he didn't win the award, he was offered to make his short into a feature film afterward.
Nice.
And direct it.
Sweet.
Which is also kind of bananas.
Yeah, that's like a really rare opportunity.
Super rare. That usually doesn't happen in an industry. Usually you kind of work your way up from the bottom very slowly. He's worked on other stuff. He does, his day job for a while was doing previs and like CG lighting and stuff. He actually worked for Third Floor. I have a friend who works at that company, but they do like pre-visualization for movies with 3D. It's like storyboarding, but with 3D assets. Yeah. So he did that for a while. I think he teaches now, actually. That's what he's been up to since 9. But yeah, that doesn't really happen often. The only other like major animation story like that I can think of is like Alex Hirsch with Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
Because he worked on Flapjack and then had this idea, and basically Disney like took him up on that idea, which is wild for how old he was at the time.
Yeah.
So kind of a similar story. Tim Burton was very interested after seeing the short in producing it because it was so different. So I'm glad that he latched himself onto this project. But really, Shane Acker is the one, the visionary behind all this. And I think he did a pretty good job. The movie has had mixed reviews, but it did make profit at the box office. Which, like, hey, you did it. You made a successful movie. Great job. It was not a flop by any means.
Yeah.
It's one that I come back to in my mind as just, like, films that stick out to me. Like, whenever I'm telling people, like, my favorite animated films, I kind of go by decade of, like, ones that stand out to me. And 9 is definitely one that stands out among the rest for me. It's not the most visually appealing or, like, the most interesting story, but I think the world is so unique and the characters are so fun that I kind of just get enveloped in it, and I really like it for that.
When did you first encounter this movie?
When it came out.
Oh, like in theater?
I think so. So this movie came out on September 9th, 2009. 999.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is one of the only release dates I will forever remember.
Well, intentionally so,
yeah.
I imagine. That's cool.
There's a clock in the movie, apparently, that is also stuck on 909. So they really played into that for the marketing.
Definitely.
I remember seeing trailers for it, and as a kid, and as me now liking kind of creepy things, it appealed to me.
Yeah, definitely. How old would we have been?
I probably would have been
2009.
12, 13-ish, 14 maybe.
Okay.
Somewhere in that range.
So probably like kind of the ideal age range when it first came out.
Yeah. But Elijah Wood is the main character.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He just pops up.
He does. I love him. I love when he pops into a project. I'm just like, oh, hey, it's you.
Hey, it's Elijah.
How's it going, bud?
Who else is in this?
So this has Elijah Wood. This has Jennifer Connelly. This has John C. Reilly. This has Tom Kane, who you may not be as familiar with, but he's primarily a voice actor. You would know him from Clone Wars. He's Yoda and Admiral Yularen. I think he's also the Scrubby Bubbles guy, like in the Scrubby Bubbles commercial.
Oh, that's weird.
I'm pretty sure that's him. Voice actors are fun. I like analyzing their work. Oh, so there's a scientist in this movie who's like responsible for like, it's a post-apocalyptic movie, who's like responsible for all that. The scientist is voiced by the cousin of the guy who made the atomic bomb.
Oh, was that intentional?
Yeah.
That's wild.
So the scientist, the actor who plays the scientist, his name is Alan Oppenheimer.
Oh, Oppenheimer.
Oh,
Oppenheimer. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Like Oppenheimer. Like, literally the cousin of the guy who made the atomic bomb.
Okay. All you had to do is, I wouldn't have recognized that if you hadn't prefaced with that, but yes, I have heard Oppenheimer reference when learning about the atomic bomb.
Yeah. I think that's wild that they got him to do this role.
It is.
So
what a casting decision.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot beside that, just like some fun little tidbits.
I feel like this one is better for us to go into without a whole lot of context.
Yeah. So the DVD that we have has both the movie and the short, if you want to see the original short as well.
Yeah, we could do that.
And we can talk about it afterward. But
all right.
I'm excited to watch this one again.
Yeah.
It's kind of spooky.
I think this works for spooky month. Yeah, let's do it.
And we'll see you after the break.
See you then.
Intermission time.
Hello, and welcome to the middle part of the podcast. It's my episode, so you get to hang out with me. If you like what you hear and you want to support our podcast, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CinemaCrushPod. That's at CinemaCrushPod, all one word. You can also email us at cinemacrushpod@gmail.com. We'll be posting updates on our social media and sharing things that we love. If you have questions or feedback, you can tweet at us, you can DM us, you can comment on posts, or respond to stories that we put out. We'd love to hear from you. We plan on publishing episodes bi-weekly, so you can look for us again in 2 weeks with a new episode. We are done with our mini-series, Rings of Power, so we are truly back to a bi-weekly schedule. As always, we really appreciate you for listening to our podcast and giving us a chance. If there's anyone that you think would like this podcast, please share it with them. We want to get the word out. But that's all the announcements that I have for you this episode, so let's get you back for our review and reflection of 9.
And now, on with the show.
Hello, and welcome back.
We just watched a movie.
And a short.
And a short, yeah.
Yeah, we watched 9, and then we watched the original short that it's based off of.
Yes.
Which you can instantly see all the parallels that the movie took from the short.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was saying right after we watched the short that I can see, like, the short came out, and I can see all of the, like, unanswered questions that the team left in the plot of, like, first of all, there's no dialogue. So there's no, like, real chance to put in a ton of exposition without it focusing on that. So it really just, like, focuses on these two characters in peril and then eventually focuses on the one main character who is the hero succeeding, but at what cost? So, which is kind of the whole plot of 9 is, like, but we survived, but at what cost?
Yeah.
So... shall I synopsize this plot a little bit?
I don't think we need to go super in depth, but
just for context, like,
for context's sake,
to refresh memories. I don't know what time period it's supposed to take place in, but it kind of feels like World War I era.
I think it's alternate World War I or something
maybe
around there.
like World War I, World War II.
It's kind of like how the Fallout games are like alternate
yeah.
World War II or whatever.
Yeah. Post-apocalyptic. It feels a little bit more World War II because there are a few references to, like, Nazis, visually speaking. And there's, like, a lot of very, like, Germany World War II kind of imagery. I don't think that's where it's supposed to take place or anything. It kind of is set in this, like, alternate Earth. And they don't really give us a specific time period. We're not really given, like, the characters don't really have specific accents that allude to a specific location, but it is some Western civilization.
Somewhere in Europe.
Somewhere in Europe. We open, and it's this guy that is completing this little, like, poppet sort of a doll, and...
like a sackcloth.
like a little sackcloth, burlap sack, poppet kind of a thing. And... like, we basically find out that there are all of these little guys running around in this, like, post-apocalyptic...
and everyone's dead.
Yeah, all the humans are dead. They established that very clearly. And that was, like, the moment that our quote-unquote hero, who is 9, he has a big 9 written on his back. He wakes up, and one of the first things that we see along with him are this... dead body of the old man on the ground, and immediately I was like, there's a lot more serious imagery in this movie than I remember.
Oh yeah, it's intense and does not hold back, really.
Because, like, 2 scenes from that, the same character has exited the building that he was brought to life in, and he looks inside, like, a rusted out car, and there are, like, a corpse of a child with its parent inside. So it takes itself very seriously. This is not a movie that really banks on humor at all, which I kind of appreciate. It's kind of refreshing.
It is refreshing, and, like, there's not really anything like it before, or I would even say after.
Yeah, it feels very serious.
I don't think I've yet to see an animated film take itself as seriously as this does.
Yeah. Overall, there are all these little guys, I don't know how else to describe them, that have been created for some purpose. We don't know what at first. And they're kind of just surviving, and they have their own little group that they're trying to keep each other safe. They're trying to stay alive because there are these monsters roaming around, like this one with a cat skull that kind of has like a weird frog body.
Yeah, it's all robots.
They're all robots that are kind of
Ramshackled
mishmashed
together.
Yeah, like trash heaps come alive, but menacing trash heaps. One of their compatriots, 2, gets taken by this thing. 9 has this little device that has been taken by this monster. It's just like a little round thing with some sigils on it. And that monster is about to attempt to put this into a machine by the time they get to it. They kill it, the monster. But then 9, curiosity overtaking him, puts the object into the machine himself.
Which I can't really blame him for, because it's like he's just become alive, and that's the thing he awakes to is this device.
Right.
And then he sees what it goes to.
Right. He's like, oh.
So, like, it's kind of almost his purpose.
Yeah.
To put it there.
Right. And it turns out to be a huge mistake, because it awakens this big metal machine monster. I think I kind of compared it to the co-pilot in WALL-E.
Yeah. Or Gladys from Portal.
Yeah. Kind of that sort of thing where it's like a big metal contraption with one big red eyeball. And it's got a bunch of like little arms.
It like hangs from the ceiling and like looks around.
Big factory, and it tries to grab them all to the point 2 gets his soul sucked into this thing, and that's what brings it to life initially. And then it sends all these monsters after these guys, and they spend all this time running away. There's a lot of inter-character conversation and problems that happen, and they continuously lose more and more of their party. And then eventually they blow up this factory that this big red guy is in. They think he's dead. They're celebrating, and then he comes crawling over the hill. And
like a zombie.
And he steals another soul. He chases after them. 9 has been getting these clues that he needs to go back to the place that he came to life in. So he does that because he's determined to find out what's going on. He finds this message that's left for them, that they're all parts of this scientist's soul. This scientist who made this machine. I don't know if they really clarify what the purpose is. It ends up being used for creating machines that essentially wipe out humanity.
I think the purpose of the machine was to be like an intelligent AI that could help them create things to help humanity.
Yeah, but
of course it gets taken over by the government and the military and used for weaponry.
Yeah, because it's basically like a mind. So it wants to make things, but it doesn't have a human soul. And the human soul is in all of these little guys. So it's trying to steal them.
It's like Voldemort's Horcruxes.
Yeah, very much. But like from a good guy. They get the little sigil thing back from the machine, which is just called the machine. And they kill it by removing this thing. Like it blows up. And then they're able to release the souls of their fallen comrades, and it kind of closes on the remaining 4 individuals sadly saying goodbye to their friends.
It's a very melancholy ending.
Yeah, it's a very melancholy ending. Like, there is still hope, but what are these little guys gonna do? The world has been ruined.
They are the world.
They are the world. That's all that's left as far as we know. Yeah. Very, like, not a downer necessarily. It's just a very serious movie.
Yeah.
Like it very much takes on, like you were saying, the scientist is voiced by the cousin of the guy that invented the atomic bomb. It's a very like, this is a warning kind of a movie, and it takes itself seriously in that respect. There's not really a lot of like comic relief or anything. I don't think it needs it.
No, I think if there's any comic relief, it's just in, like, the charm of the characters.
Right, it's not so much, like...
They're not, like, cracking jokes and, like... I feel like that's kind of been a trope lately, is, like, it's serious, especially in Marvel. Mm-hmm. Like, when there's a serious moment, if someone cracks a joke, and, like, to, like, lighten the mood... They can't just let it sit and marinate. This movie marinates the whole way through.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about this movie is that in the best way possible, it feels like I'm watching all of the cutscenes for a video game.
I was gonna say, I would love to see this remade, but not as a film, but as like a AAA video game.
Yeah. Because I can feel the moments where it would be like a cutscene to explain something, and then the moments of like action where you're taking control of the character.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite video games in recent years have been playable films. Like they're not really.
We honestly, I think we could probably do an episode on some video games.
Yeah,
in this
definitely.
podcast.
That's a genre of video games I've really enjoyed because I'm not really like an MMO person necessarily. I think there's definitely a place for that. I understand why people enjoy them, but I'm much more a person who really enjoys the story of video games and not so much the actual playability necessarily. So games like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, the most recent one that was released. Let me think, what are some other ones? Last of Us.
Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man, PS4.
I haven't seen the story in that one.
Oh my gosh. For the side tangents for Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, because I love playing video games. I love a good story in a video game, and I like good game mechanics. And for the longest time, I had always said that Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 was the best Spider-Man game ever made, because they had yet to impress me enough with either a story or a game mechanic that would match it. And Spider-Man for the PS4, one of the more recent ones, I think they have a Miles Morales game now too as well, like exceeded that expectation for me. They did it's not based off of film, and they did a completely new take on all the characters and the story, and it's just really good.
Yeah.
And I think there is a 9 video game based off of this. I would be curious to play it, but I would love to see the graphics updated.
Yeah, definitely.
Visually, this movie it's good. It has a good visual style. The 3D rendering is a bit rough around the edges.
Yeah, once I get used to it, I can pretty much live with it.
After the first scene, I was kind of in for the ride.
Yeah.
But just to remind you of other things that were coming out at this time, I forgot how much of a banger 2009 was for animated films. Mm-hmm. We had 9. We had Coraline, which is not CG, but like it's another really prominent one. We had Monsters vs. Aliens from DreamWorks, which is not a great movie, but like visually, like that's the kind of render quality we were getting. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Up from Pixar, one of the best Pixar films they've made. Again, just to point to the render quality we could have had for this film, but didn't. So it's not necessarily a product of like, oh, it's an older movie. It is.
It's more budget.
It's more budget than anything. Redline, if anyone's seen that anime movie, came out that year. Super great action film. I'll probably bring it to the podcast sometime because I think you would love it.
I know you always mention it and you say I would like it. I'm just like not always in the mood for action movies. Planet 51 came out.
Astro Boy.
There are a lot of animated
Princess
films.
and the Frog from Disney.
Wow.
Like 2009 had so much going for it.
I'm surprised that I even saw it. I probably saw it pretty close to when it came out.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel.
The best one.
G-Force. Again, the rendering in G-Force looks better than 9. Oh, the Gruffalo, the short, very, very good. Yeah. Anyway, great year for films.
Good year. Yeah.
Good year.
So I can see it could have been better if they'd probably had a larger budget, but like even what they did produce, I think
it worked.
It worked, and they definitely work with what they have.
I think they put just the right amount of effort into what they needed.
Yeah.
For the time that they had and the technology that they had available for getting the final look. Because the voice acting is great, the characters are good, the animation is fine, like the story is phenomenal.
I think one of the things that helps it a lot, that is really a strength that I notice in certain animated films and even live action, is the character acting. Because we watched the behind the scenes of the animators talking about how they go about animating character action, and they reference the fact that like a lot of the scenes in this movie are characters talking to each other, So for an animated movie that's not like highly exaggerated, you do need a lot of that subtlety that would come otherwise with a live action actor acting it. And I think that they really do a great job of capturing that aspect.
And that's not uncommon for animated films to shoot reference footage.
No,
we do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I always encourage my students to do it as well. Animators are just as much actors as they are artists.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes down to getting that final product, like, you might have the footage of the voice actor in the booth, but when it comes to the body movement of the character, it's really kind of come down to the animator to decide what that looks like.
I think what one of them said really sparked something in my brain, which was thinking about elements like that adds a lot of texture to a movie, not just visual texture. Like, I would compare it to if I were going to a modern art museum and I saw a painting that was just a painting and it was the color blue and it was just a blue canvas, just plain flat. It almost would look like the canvas had been dyed blue and stretched on the frame, versus a canvas that had a bunch of acrylic paint smeared over it, and so the light caught different parts of the texture and there was shadow and highlights and maybe there was some image hidden in there and there were like different variations on the color, and so they're the same color but one is a lot flatter and one has a lot of visual interest to it, and my eye is going all over the place. Like, that's how I sort of imagine it with movies like this. My brain is catching on all of these little points of interest. Like, this movie has really interesting use of props. It has really good character acting. The voice acting is great. The lighting is really great. It's very, like, spooky and dingy and
post-apocalyptic.
The camera shots,
everything's very well framed.
There's a lot of really interesting POV shots. Like, this is not a story that solely focuses on 9. There are a lot of shots that are from the point of view of a different character focusing on 9. Like, there's a great shot near the beginning where 5 is looking through the Watchtower telescope down at 9. And you're not sure who is looking at 9, and it's right after this very perilous scene has happened where this monster has been trying to capture him.
Yeah, you don't know whether this is a friendly person or not.
So it just, like, puts you on edge and adds this, like, element of suspense and, like, this extra texture to that scene. And then you see, oh, it's another one of these little guys, but we still don't know if he's friendly or not. So there's a lot of really great storytelling that's done without having, like, a lot of good showing, not telling. Like, I know exactly how I'm supposed to feel in this scene, and they're doing a great job of making me feel that way.
I think a strength of that came from the original short, because there was no dialogue in the original short.
Yeah.
It was just action, and they really stemmed off of that for the bones of this movie.
Yeah. I think that every animator should do an exercise where they make a short with no dialogue, because it really, like,
it forces you to be creative with your shots.
Yeah.
Because you can't rely on what's being said.
Yeah, you have to tell the story with charades, basically. With color, with lighting, with camera movements, with your storyboarding.
Yeah. And that's something I always hammer into my storyboard classes when I'm teaching students, is, like, there's so much that you have to keep in mind when you're framing a shot of, like, what's going to be the most important thing to look at, the most interesting angle to look at that thing. Like, where do you want to place your audience to view what's happening in the script?
What is the most interesting place that they can be?
Yeah.
We just listened to our friend's Rings of Power podcast episode today, so I was thinking about it, and I was just, like, comparing this movie to Rings of Power in my brain. I think the creators of that show need to take some notes, because this is so good and such a well-told story. Yeah. Without needing a lot. And I know it's different.
There's not a lot of characters in this.
No, there's not.
There are, obviously the 9. Mm-hmm. And 3 villains? We have the kind of cat-like one. We have the bird. I guess 4 villains.
Snake.
We have the snake.
The snake
which
is
awful.
Which
is my favorite.
It's so weird and creepy.
I love it. I want to talk about the monsters in a bit, but we have and then the giant eyeball, so...
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, 12. So 13 characters and a scientist. 14. Not all of them are speaking roles, and most of them die.
Yeah.
There are real consequences in this film.
Mm-hmm.
We see 2 die, we see 5 and 6 and 1 and 8, like, just beef it, and they show it on screen, what's happening to them, and we feel that, like, guilt that 9 feels.
Even the scientist's death is shown on screen.
Yeah.
This movie does not pull any punches.
Mm-mm. Again, real consequences for characters' actions. 9 makes a mistake, and it costs not just one life, multiple lives of these fragmented soul beings.
Well, and to that point, all of these characters are parts of one person's soul, and he feels personally responsible for so many deaths.
Yeah.
Because he made this machine that's just referred to as the machine that created weapons that wiped out humanity. So I think at the end of it, I don't think I want to go through and try to assign like all the parts of a personality to these characters, because we truly don't really know much about the scientist, but 9 truly feels like the heroic, empathetic part of the scientist that is his last hope and embodies that. He's the curiosity.
I think hope is a good word for 9. He's the last one that is made.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of the last chance for things to work out in the world.
Yeah.
But every one of these characters is memorable to me.
Yeah.
In their personality. 1 is a leader, he's trying to protect people. 2 is curious, he's inventing things, tinkering.
Mm-hmm.
Also very compassionate.
Yeah.
3 and 4, the twins, I love them.
The librarians.
They don't speak.
Yeah.
They just like take pictures of things with their eyes.
Yeah.
And catalog everything, but they're like the memory.
Yeah.
I guess of everything.
The eyes. There's 2 of them.
Yeah. 5, the one with the one eye.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like 5 is the cautious one.
He's cautious but adventurous, and he's very kind.
Yeah, he has a good spirit.
Yeah. He's like the friendly, kind, compassionate. And he works well with 2. They're kind of 2 halves of a whole.
Yeah. I think 2 is probably more adventurous than 5.
Yeah.
6 is kind of a dreamer.
Yeah, artistic,
very like oracle-y.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that knows about the spirit thing, and that's something weird about this world. There's a lot of like mechanics and science, but there's also like magic.
Yeah, there's like an occult bent or like an alchemical bent to it.
Yeah.
It feels very alchemy to me.
It's just a twist of like fantasy.
Yeah.
Like probably I'd say like 90% science fiction and like that last little 10% of fantasy.
Yeah.
It's a nice balance. It's a refreshing take on like a post-apocalyptic film.
Yeah.
7 is the warrior, and I guess 7 and 8 are warriors.
Yeah.
I just
both of
realized,
them.
but very different. 7 is much more dexterous and nimble. 8 is kind of the big hulking one. Both of them are protectors as well, but like in a physical sense.
Mom and dad.
Yeah. I will say for 7, I think they did a good job of not over feminizing their character design.
Yeah, definitely. That was one thing I was gonna kind of mention is like 7. I feel like 7, 3, and 4 are all vaguely feminine coded.
Yeah.
Like I think if they had cast voice actors for 3 and 4, they probably would have cast female voice actors, or at least one female voice actor for one of them. But they do a really good job of like giving them a different voice without making them like that is the girl character.
Yeah.
You know?
And like there are hints of like femininity in the character design and stuff, because like she has the skull that she wears, the like bird skull, but it has like kind of these dangly like quote earring.
Yeah.
Things.
And like the like feathers kind of emulate like longer hair, sort of a thing.
But
and just add like an extra dynamic element to the character.
Yeah, it's never too much for me though.
No, it's just like, oh, that's a cool character design.
Because I feel like in a lot of kids films, they'll just like put vague boob shape on character,
vaguely idealized feminine figure, and it's just like, that's very lazy.
Why did you do that? Like, you could have just.
Why? Kids don't care.
You could have thought a little harder on this.
Yeah. They just need you to know that one is the lady. Don't get it twisted. It is the lady. We're casting a female voice actor, but just in case. But in this case, they don't do that.
No, because like, they're all kind of the same shape.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Is like, other than 8, they're all very much the same shape. But the design of each character does a really good job of giving me like, okay, this character has this, and this character has this.
Yeah, some of them have buttons, some of them have zippers, some of them have different eyes. But yeah, 8's kind of the standout because he's humongous.
Big buff.
He's a little dumb.
He's a big ol' himbo.
But the character design for 8, though, the magnet on his back to carry his weapons, I thought was really cool.
And then he uses it to get high.
I know. He, like, puts it by his brain. I'm just like, oh, buddy, no.
His eyes fuzzy. Maybe that's why he's not very smart.
I think it is. I think he was not meant to be that dumb, but he made himself kind of stupid by...
Which I wonder, not to get, like, downer, but I wonder if that part of him is like, from like, maybe the scientist had like a nicotine addiction or something, like he smoked a lot.
Oh, maybe.
So maybe that's like that addiction part of his like personality that would be interesting. I don't know. There's a lot you can speculate about who the scientist was based on all these characters, but the one thing that I can assess from all of the characters combined is that this person was not a bad person, and he did not intend bad things to happen. And he's very much trying to fix what he started.
Yeah. I think the dynamic between 1 and 9 emphasizes that a lot. And I think that's why they focused on them.
Yeah.
Because as, like, argumentative as they are with each other, I think they both have the same goal in mind.
Right.
Because 1 is not a bad leader, per se. I think he lets, as 9 says, he lets his fear drive him too much.
Yeah.
But he is actively trying to protect everyone.
Right. I think it's the journey that the scientist himself takes throughout his life. From, I'm going to make this machine, it's going to help people, I'm going to protect people, to, I need to be humble and admit that I am a flawed person, and I can still help people, but I need to recognize my flaws first, so that I can grow. That's like the whole journey that I see for that one character through all of these iterations of his person in these other characters. It's a really interesting character study. I'd be curious like what the writers' rooms looked like for this, because they took a really vague, mysterious story initially with that short that it spawned from.
Yeah.
And turned it into something really deep with a lot of layers.
Yeah, there's a lot of environmental storytelling on top of all that as well.
Yeah.
Like, every background has something to tell about what happened here.
Yeah.
And, like, it is a bit smaller scale just because they're small.
Right.
And they can't run that far.
Yeah.
So, our setting really is kind of just this one city countryside.
I don't really know if I would have any, like, critiques for this. Like, other than like the visuals could be a little bit,
but like story-wise, I'm really happy with what they did.
Yeah.
And in terms of like, was it worth it to make a full-length movie off of a short? Absolutely for this. I think they really dived into this world and expounded upon these characters.
The thing that I struggle with is I don't think that this is a movie I would want to come back to frequently. Necessarily. I'm not, having watched this, I'm like, okay, I've seen it. And if I was like really in the mood for a movie like this, then I would come back to it. But it's kind of too heavy for me to want to come back to it frequently. I don't know how you feel.
I feel the opposite. I love this movie.
Okay.
I'm sad it's taken me so long to rewatch it,
Mm-hmm.
but as I said, I like creepy things. This movie just has like a sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
Also, the snake monster makes me very happy.
It's so awful.
But like the like sinister nature of these creations that the big eye makes, like it's like, okay, so there's the cat one. It's a predator.
Mm-hmm.
Very primal, didn't really work out. So I'll make a better predator. I'll make a flying thing, and that doesn't last very long at all. But the snake is made from the body of two.
Right.
Which, like, we don't get to see it till later, but like we know it's going to be made from him, and immediately that's just like red flag. This is gonna be bad.
That's another scene where they do a really good job on switching the POV shots, because a lot of them come from the perspective of this creature. Like the scene when 8 is like investigating the noise that he hears, and he like comes upon 2, but we don't see 2's face. We just see 2 come up to 8, and 8 looks horrified because he's like, my friend died. Why is he here? And then it just like the camera angle raises up along with 2. And then there's just this green flashing that happens.
And then we
it's
don't
so
know what
good.
happened.
It's such a well done horror scene. Like
Yeah.
those scenes specifically felt so much like a horror movie.
Good movie monster. Also,
movie
just
monster.
like the implication of this thing, because all these characters are made of like sackcloth.
Yeah.
It's a sewing monster.
Uh-huh.
It sews them into its body.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah. It's awful.
It's so good.
It's so horrifying.
And like it's got threads coming out of its teeth and like needle hands.
Uh-huh.
I can see why Focus Features wanted this along with Coraline.
Yeah. It definitely has like Coraline vibes without feeling too close to Coraline.
Yeah.
It's like somebody gave these 2 studios the same prompt, which is literally just, here is a button and a sewing needle. Do with it what you will.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we got these 2 movies.
We got 2 very different but amazing films.
Like, I know that's not what happened, but like, that's like...
That's what it feels like.
It's what it feels like. Oh, they're so good. I think it's just because, like, there's not, getting back to me not potentially wanting to watch this quite as frequently. For one thing, I think putting more time between watches would help me, like, forget all of the story beats. But also, like, I just don't know that there's a character that I necessarily completely relate to in this movie. So it's more for me about, like, the story as a whole than, like, a specific character that I have connected with. And speaking of Coraline, like, I very much connect with Coraline as a character.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
true.
really like that story.
They're all very much purpose-driven for this whole movie, and there's not a whole lot of personal moments. I think mainly because, like, I don't think 9 hasn't really had a chance to get to know who he is.
But also they all know each other because they're all the same person.
Yeah.
They're all different people, but they're all from the same person. And so there's that sense of familiarity where it's like, you are one of us. I don't know you, because it would be like taking a person and cloning them and giving them the same personality, but
well, that's like,
you'd be different.
That's like 2's introduction to 9 is he calls him friend right off the bat.
Yeah. He's like, you look like me.
I know what you are.
Yeah. And none of them like truly, because I'm so curious. See, these are more questions, which tells me it's a good story, because they're more questions that don't necessarily need to be answered, but I would love to hear an answer. What was the process for all of the other ones being created? Because I want to know, like, when did the scientists start making them? How far apart are their, like, quote unquote birthdays? How did he figure out how to do this? I just want to know, because, like, how much context have these little guys been given? If they're all from the same guy, did he explain this to some of them? Clearly, they don't really know where they came from. But he only dies after he finally gives the last part of himself to 9. So I'm curious, like, how they all kind of came to life and ended up where they are. Like, did he just make them one after the other and, like, throw them out the window and say, go? Because one kind of gives context to that and, like, explains that, he kind of led them all to safety and everything, but...
Yeah. So at least, like, 1 through 8 knew each other, like, all together.
Yeah.
Before 9 came.
Right. But, like, I want to know what the timeline looks like for that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it can't be that long because, to be frank, the corpses in that car did not look that old.
Or the scientists.
Well, the scientist just died, though. I'm pretty sure. I think that's the implication anyway. But also, are there other humans elsewhere? Or is it just this region that's been wiped out?
I don't know. I don't think we need to know.
We don't need to know, but I want to know. I'm just curious. But maybe you can make that movie.
No. I'm not gonna make 9 2.
Call it something else.
Like what?
I don't know.
10?
7. Make it about 7.
No. It's good. Leave it alone. Don't be like Hollywood.
I don't want to be like Hollywood. I want another one so that I can know more about the story.
Make a video game.
Make a graphic novel of what happens to them. Because that's what Over the Garden Wall does. And then they're very good.
No. It's fine. It's perfect the way it is.
This was also made so long ago that I don't think people would return to it.
I think Shane would like it.
What's he up to anyway?
He's teaching.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if he's got any projects in the works, though.
I don't know.
Did he, like, tell the story he wanted to tell, and then...
I think so. Based on his, like, career path after the fact, I think he just kind of went back into visual effects and...
Yeah. It's like, okay, I made a movie.
Like, yeah, you did it.
I made a profit. I think that's successful.
It is. And, like, it's a cool success story.
Yeah.
I like it.
I do feel like not enough people talk about this movie.
Yeah, it's one that kind of falls through the cracks.
Yeah. I think it's just because, like, it's an animated movie, but it's not really a kid's movie. Like you said at the beginning. And I think that there are a lot of people that just have a lot of work to do in their ability to accept that not every animated movie has to be for kids.
Animation is a medium, not a genre.
Yes.
That's why I'm always frustrated by the Oscars for having one animation category, and it's like always all kids films.
Yeah.
Like, always.
Well, I mean, Cartoon Saloon ends up in there too, but
still.
They never actually win.
I don't know. I like Cartoon Saloon a lot, but I feel like Cartoon Saloon is also geared toward younger audiences overall.
Yeah.
I
feel like the only non-younger audience animated stuff ends up in the short film category.
I don't know. There's a couple, like Princess Mononoke is one that I would say is not a kids
not
film.
Really
that's just a film that's animated.
Studio Ghibli movies in general, there's a few that I feel like are specifically kind of geared towards a younger audience.
Yeah. Although, there's a few slice of life ones that I feel are geared toward, like, high school to, like, college age.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like, Whisper of the Heart is very much like a high school slice of life.
Yeah.
Or, like, from Up on Poppy Hill. It's, like, not like little kids.
Right.
Like, it's interesting to see an older audience in that. But I want more movies like 9.
Yeah. Well, you're just gonna have to make them.
All right. Done. But should we rate this?
Yeah. You go first. I need to gather my thoughts.
All right. As a reminder of my rating system, it's on a scale of -5 to 5. 5 being the best it could be, -5 being so bad it's good, and 0 in the middle being just plain bad. I'm gonna put this definitely in the positive. I'm just trying to think how close to 5 I want to put it, because I think just for the visuals, I don't think I can give it a full 5, because there are some rough edges to this, but that's totally okay. So I'm gonna give this, you know what? I'm gonna give this a 4.9.
So close.
Just because it has 9 in it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is like, it's almost there for me. I love this movie. I think I'd love to do I'd love for a re-render of this movie.
Yeah. No, nothing would be different. Just make it look
just a little bit better
I
lighting and textures.
I would love if this movie was remade. Everything was exactly the same. Just like modern technology.
Yep.
Like texture,
it's
lighting.
It's kind of like when they do the video game reboots. Like, they're not remaking the game. They're just updating the graphics and like tightening the controls.
Right.
Like when they did the like Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, when they did the like Spyro stuff, like it's just a plain like same game, better graphics, controls better, no lag. I want that but not an animated remake like we see with Disney.
No.
I just want
purely
remastered.
I want little fibers coming off of all these little
and honestly
guys.
I'm amazed how far CG has come since then, because like I feel confident that I could make like a character model that looks better than what they rendered in this. And like I'm not like obviously it's my animation is my job, but like it's hard to do like by yourself. Like that's why there's so many teams of people that work on these films. With the way technology is right now, I know I could make a character model of 9 and make it look really, really good.
Yeah. I think you should do an exercise where you model 9.
That'd be fun. You know what I would do? All right, here's the technical speak. Instead of traditional like skinning where it's like when you make a character mesh in 3D, you have to give it like weights of like how much each part bends when the armature bends, like when the bones of it bend. Rather than do that for like the quote skin of the characters, I would love to do just a hard skeleton inside and a cloth simulation on the outside, and that's it.
Yeah.
There would be no skinning, as it's called.
Yeah. Because that's just what they are.
Yeah. There's no reason why for the head I would probably do what they did in this film for rigging, but for the body I would definitely do more of a cloth-like feel. What's your rating?
I think I will give this I'll give it an 8 out of 9.
Boo! Boo!
Why boo?
You're not gonna give it a 9 out of 10?
That could work too, but there's only 9 of them.
I guess.
There's not 10
Or
characters.
a 9 out of 9?
Well, I think the visuals are the same thing for me. Where it's like everything else is great, just not the visuals. But that's not really like they did the best they could.
It does not stop me from watching it.
Yeah. Like I think it's great. It just I can see where it can be better. So like that's where it would earn the full 9 out of 9.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching this with me.
Yeah, it was a good one to revisit because I haven't seen it in so long. So thanks for bringing it.
Well, we'll see you next episode, and it'll be Emily's turn.
Yeah, I think I know what I'm bringing.
Okay.
So we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.
Thanks again for dropping in, and we hope you've enjoyed the evening as much as we've enjoyed having you here. Till next time, please drive carefully, and good night now.